How's it going, everybody? We got a special guest on with us today. His name is Jim Burton. He's joining us from his Deadlift dungeon. Jim, thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
We're really excited to have you on and hear your story. But Dr. Aaron, is there anything that you want to add before we get rolling?
Not really anything. I mean, we saw your page, Jim, and we thought it was very inspirational. Like, we like what you stand for. We like the content you have on the page, and we're very excited to have you on.
Well, I'm happy to be on.
Yeah, get us going.
You know, we found a lot of your stuff very inspirational. You know, like everything that we had. We're gonna dive into everything too. Everything that's your journey through the deadlifting, the powerlifting, how you got started. So let's start there first. How did your fitness journey start, Jim?
Well, I guess I was a sophomore in high school. I was skinny, short, I weighed about 120 pounds, and I had a growth spurt, maybe even skinnier, and I wanted to put weight on for football. And so I had a couple friends who were brothers. They went to a different high school because, back in the 60s, like at my high school, our coaches were telling us not to lift weights. They thought that it would get you big and bulky and clumsy. But these guys, their coach was light years ahead of everybody else, and he had his players lifting weights. So they told me about that. And the only thing I knew was I was supposed to do 4 sets of 5. So that's what I started out with. We didn't have the big commercial gyms back then. We didn't, there was a few magazines around, but that was about it. So I figured out a workout. I was doing it we had an old farmhouse. I was doing it in my basement, where you really couldn't even stand up all the way. So I had to do overhead presses sitting down. But, so I worked out 4 days a week. I did the exact same workout all 4 days. Put 30 pounds on in 6 months. And the next 2.5 years, I put 6 pounds on because I was overtraining and didn't realize it.
Yep.
And it took me years to finally realize that there was other things I could do than 4 sets of 5.
Yeah.
But that's how I got started.
It's funny, like you mentioned that like high school athletes, like nowadays they should know that strength training is a good thing to do. But
it is now, yeah.
Believe it or not, I still hear it sometimes from like younger kids. Hear the myth like, oh, you're gonna stunt your growth if you're lifting too early.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. That's just not really a thing.
Yeah, that's kind of been, just proven that it's nonsense. But you're right. There still are people out there that push that narrative. I don't know why, but they do.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's developed over time, and you're definitely a pioneer in the start of it. Because if you really think about all the high school football teams, the wrestlings, the colleges, you go to a university and you see the weight room that they have. It's just
yeah,
it's
$1 million weight rooms now.
Yeah, Aaron, we were actually just talking about what university was
Texas
it that
Tech.
doesn't have
Yeah.
Texas Tech. It's their dumbbells don't go below what 45. We found out.
Yeah, I think it's below 40. The lightest dumbbells they have in the gym are 40s. They don't have anything below that.
Well, college age athletes, that sounds right.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Like at face value, it makes sense. Like these are some of the strongest athletes in the world. Like Texas Tech football team, those would be some very good athletes. But, we're both physical therapists, so my first thought always goes to, like, oh, what if an injury happens or something like that? Like, do we want to just hop right onto the 40 pounds? For some people, maybe. Some people, maybe not. It was just like, that was my first thought right away.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But,
Now, Jim, I said it during the intro, and I want to ask about it. Your home gym, the Deadlift Dungeon. How did that come to be, and how did we get the name? I love the name.
Well, I started it because sometimes I can get a little too political on I was mainly on Facebook, and I could get a little too political, and so well, how I can't let me give you the whole story. It started 2017, I think. I was at a meet, and I had a really good friend there named Larry Bucchiani. And we whenever we went to a meet together, from the time we saw each other to the time we left, we were hanging out together the whole time. That's the only time we ever saw each other. But we got to be really, really good friends. And one time I hadn't lifted in, I don't know, I don't think I'd competed in about a year or so. And so I opened with 405, did 435, and was pretty sure that's all I had in me that day. But something told me to ask Larry what my next attempt should be, because in powerlifting you get 3 attempts, and so I asked Larry what he thought, and without hesitation he says, "What's your best deadlift right now?" And I said 450. He says, "Well, go for 455," and then he looked at me and he said, "Jim," he said, I was 60, I don't know, 67, 60, I don't know, somewhere 67, somewhere around there. And he looked at me and he said, "Jim," he said, "it's your job to show people that they can still get stronger as they get older." And he says, "Will you promise to do that for me?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I will." Well, a year later, he died. And so when I started Jim's Deadlift Dungeon, I did it in honor of Larry, and I did it to so that people could view my workout videos without having to go on my just regular Facebook page and listen to my other nonsense. So that's how Jim's Deadlift Dungeon came about.
I love it. That's amazing. And just the story behind it, like I said before too, like you have so many like inspirational things going on Instagram too, and just to hear that it started with another inspiration from like a dear friend of yours who said that this was he gave you the job. He gave you like, this is what we need you to accomplish, and you went out and you're doing it.
Yep. Yeah. And I got stuck for a while. There for a while, I was constantly during a meet. I'd do anywhere from 420 to like 445, and then COVID hit. And I remember I was in the dungeon one day, and the dungeon's my garage down here in Florida. We have the laundry. A lot of houses have the laundry in the garage because things don't freeze down here. Well, most of the time, and so that's why you see the washing machine behind me when I'm working out. But during COVID, I remember I was sitting in there, I was working out one day, and like I said, I kind of just I was between 420 to 445 every time I competed, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I just became obsessed with keeping my promise to Larry. And the next thing I know, because I was really trying to get past 450 again. And the next thing I know, heck, I'm doing 450. I'm doing 460. I ended up getting up to 480. And then I think that's somewhere after I did the 480 is when I went into AFib. But still, I was still deadlifting around 460, 465. But I just became obsessed with showing people that, age is just a number. I tell people all the time, I'm not getting older. I'm not getting old. I'm getting older. And I correct people in the car when I'm doing Uber all the time when they whine about how old they are. "Oh, I'm so old." No, you're not old. You're older. And it is. It's really it's a frame of mind. Mm-hmm. And that's what people have to, they got to realize that. And that's what I try to tell people. And I started doing the cards. I got the cards in the back of my car. Picture me deadlifting and my messages on it, and I put them in there, hoping to start a conversation with somebody, because you can't believe how many people did I pick up that can barely get in and out of the car. And all they got to do is do something stupid. They don't have to, I tell them all the time, they don't have to go crazy like me and try to lift as much as you can, but you got to do something. Mm-hmm. So, and that's kind of, that's another thing I try to do while I'm doing Uber, and then my videos. So
yeah, so
no, I love
first
it.
thing I think of. So another thing about me, I'm a geriatric physical therapist, so I work with older adults too. And I think one of the biggest things, to your point, Jim, is that people get in that mindset that, oh, I'm going to be old and I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm going to be feeble. I'm just going to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And honestly, the people that have that mindset usually get weaker, weaker, and weaker. Whereas what you're saying, like keeping yourself optimistic and keeping yourself moving, like it doesn't necessarily have to be a 400-pound deadlift, but just keeping your body strong, finding those little things that you might like to do. Maybe it's going for a walk in the park, or maybe it is doing some lifting, or instead of doing 400-pound deadlift, maybe do a 100-pound deadlift or something like that. So there's a lot of potential people have as we get older that sometimes is not recognized.
Right. They got to do something. And like, if I give them an example, I tell them, just do something simple. I tell them, I got 2 exercises I try to tell people to do just off the bat: push-ups and squats. And I tell them, if you can't do a regular push-up, do it up against the wall or something. Like, I got a really bad shoulder, so I do my push-ups up against the washing machine. And then I just started doing bench presses. I haven't been able to bench press in years, and I just started actually today doing them on a Smith machine. I use just the bar, but I tell them, do the push-ups up against the wall if you have to, and then just squat down to a chair and stand back up, and do this, do it 2 or 3 times a day. And, now I tell them that when they get out of the car, I never see them again. So I don't know how many people have actually taken my advice, but they got it.
Well, yeah, like you have that in-person talking to people, but you also have your channel too. And I think that's a good way
Right.
to like spread that same idea, where like stuff
Yep.
like that really does make a big difference in the long run. Especially
Yeah, I can't believe the comments I'm getting anymore on, on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're just off the charts.
Yeah, and like
what are some comments that you're seeing that like really kind of like hit home with you?
Well, just how inspirational I am, and how I've motivated people, and and then people will say, well, I wasn't going to work out today, I just didn't feel like it, but now I saw your video and I'm going to go work out. And I'm, it's just that's what I want to do. I want to tell, I want people to understand they've got choices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've had a rough, 2.5, 3 years now. And I just want to tell people that, you can just roll over and give up, or you can keep going forward.
Make the most of all of it. And that was the first thing that I thought when I came across your Instagram. I was scrolling and I sent it to Aaron. I was just like, look at this guy. Like, there's so many people, and we, like Aaron said, we work with so many people, so many patients, and some of them are older, and they say like, oh, like don't get old, like I'm getting older, I can't move. And I came across your Instagram. I'm like, he's pushing the odds. He's defying everything that everybody else is saying. He's pushing himself, and he's not giving up. And that's the most like amazing message that you can give somebody. I feel like just you can't give up.
Right. That's what I'm trying to tell people.
Yeah, and I think it also shows that like it's doable. It's not something like all this like science that we hear about how good it is to exercise for our entire life. Like you're a perfect example as you just keep doing it. And like despite all of the stuff that you've been through, you're still, I would say, still doing pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going back to like you were saying with the powerlifting meet with your friend Larry, and like you said, he was saying like how your goal was to like I guess inspire other people. Like, is there anything that caused that to start? Like that I guess that want to inspire people?
Well, I guess Larry, because in my 20s, I grew up around harness horses. I don't know if you know what harness horses are or not. They're race horses, the ones that have a little sulky behind them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, my father used to train and drive them. He talked me into becoming a horse shoer and shoeing them. So for 30 years, I was shoeing them, and that's really tough on your body, and especially the back. So somewhere in my mid to late 20s, I had to stop. First, I had to stop deadlifting. Then I had to stop squatting. And I still can't squat. I even think about squatting and my back goes down. Mm-hmm. But so I always worked out at home, and I had my little gym set up. And when I was living up in New Jersey, I had a leg extension machine. And when I moved to Florida, it was okay, but it wasn't, it wasn't a good enough thing to bring with me. So when I moved down here, I could still bench press then. I couldn't bench press what I used to be able to, but I could still bench press around 200 pounds. But anyway, so I was doing stuff, but I think I'm thinking, I got to do something to train my legs. And I So I had squat racks. So I figured, well, let me throw 135 pounds on and do some squats. So I did, I think, like 3 sets of 10 or something, real nice and easy, and do my back out. And I said, well, that's not going to work. So I remember reading that sumo deadlifts really work the legs a lot. So once again, I said, well, you know what? I threw 135 pounds on and started doing the sumo deadlifts, and mainly just to work my legs. And I started out with 135, and then 225, and 315, and next thing you know, I'm doing 405, and I used to do bench press competitions. So, but when my shoulder got real bad, I stopped doing that. So I started looking in the magazines, and I'm thinking, well, geez, I could be competitive. So then I started competing in the deadlift. And so I basically started serious deadlifting in my 60s. And Larry knew that. And he saw that I could get stronger. I think he saw something in me that he knew I could get stronger if I put my mind to it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's one of the reasons he said that to me. And because Larry was already deadlifting way over 500, but he was going down. Mm-hmm. Whereas I was still going up.
Yeah, or you're sort of crossing paths on the way.
Exactly.
Jim, you're putting every excuse of mine to shame right now. I got stuck at like my deadlift. I get up to 365 right now, and I keep telling myself like, no, I'm gonna stay there. Like I don't want to push it past that, and I've got no reason to not push it past that. I can, like you said, I can get stronger too. So I'm gonna stop making excuses, and I'm gonna attempt PRs again.
Well, there you go. There you go. And I'm constantly experimenting, and I think that's another thing that you have to do. It depends on what you want out of your workouts. If you just want to lose a few pounds and get a little bit of muscle and stay so you can move around and stuff like that, that's fine. But if you're like competing like I am, I think you've constantly got, especially with all the issues that I've had the last 3 years, I got to experiment on what works and what doesn't work. Like I said, when I got obsessed, all of a sudden, I was really kicking my butt every time I deadlift once a week, and when I was kicking my butt, and I started doing it with the lighter rates. I was starting to do more reps instead of just singles, and here, for a while I was hoping I could deadlift 455. The next thing I know, I'm doing a triple with 455. So, you got to push yourself. And now that I've gone into heart failure, it's really, experimenting. And I've realized that I can't do the reps like I used to be able to do. So most of my things are singles now. But like I said, I'm still experimenting with that.
Just out of my own curiosity, when you started deadlifting more, did it affect your back in any good or bad
I'll
ways?
tell you what, I do sumo, but it's a narrow sumo. Mm-hmm. It's just outside my hands. You've got guys that I don't know how they don't put the plates down on their toes. Yeah. They're so wide. When I first started doing the sumo deadlifts, I got a stance that felt natural to me. Yeah. And that's what I tell people now. Don't have somebody tell you, well, you got to have a narrow stance, you got to have a real wide. Get your feet where they feel natural to you. And I realized that if I get my feet too far apart, my knees start yelling at me. If I get them too narrow, then my back starts yelling at me. But I'll tell you what, since I've been doing the heavy deadlifts, my back feels the best it's felt my entire adult life.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of benefits to it. Mm-hmm. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
And as long as you don't even get me started on CrossFit, because CrossFit, in my opinion, is a good idea going bad because they take very technical lifts, and then they want you to do as many as you can in a certain amount of time, and they're asking for people to get hurt by doing that because. You've got it like with the deadlift. You got to make sure your form is good. And I do. I concentrate on my form all the time. And like I said, my back feels the best it's felt, in 40 or 50 years.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to CrossFit, there are definitely good gyms and bad gyms where some gyms
like anything
that you go to, like the coaches will make sure your technique is perfect. Like if you're starting to do something wrong, they make sure you modify, change it. Then some of them you go in and it's like you're afraid for people's backs, knees, everything possible. You don't want anything to go wrong in there.
Yeah. Well, my daughter and her husband have a couple that they're really good friends with, and they swore by CrossFit. And they would tell Jamie and Gabe, my daughter and her husband, all the time that they needed to do it, and they didn't want to hear it, that it could be bad for you. Well, then they both started getting hurt and injuries, and now they've seen the light.
Yeah.
So
you've had a few experiences with CrossFit that weren't so good, to say the
right,
least. Yeah.
Right.
It's tricky because
and
I think for us, like, I see where you're coming from with it. I have like friends, and we've actually had people on the podcast too that have had good experience with CrossFit too. So that's why I sort of mentioned the coaching, that some
right. Well, you're right.
Yeah, are good and some are
not
so good.
Well, even just regular lifting, there's some good coaches out there, and there's some really terrible trainers out there.
Well, I'm sure you've seen it as a power lifter too, that every once in a while you go to a gym and it's like, oh, that doesn't look too good over there. And someone's supposed to be like training the other person. They're still not really giving them the proper technique.
Yep.
And that's also why I like your cue with the deadlift, that you just go what's most comfortable to you.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of do the same thing where it's like almost like an in-between sumo versus conventional deadlift, and it just feels better for my hips, my knees, my back.
Yep.
And I find I hurt myself a lot less when I do that too.
Right. And it's taught me to, if I drop something on the floor, I don't just bend over. I squat down and pick it up and stand up like I'm deadlifting. I don't care if it's a piece of paper.
Well, that reminds me of another story. So I would say probably half a year ago, I went to a bachelor party for my buddy, and I've had issues with my back for years, where it actually started water skiing, and then before I was a physical therapist, I didn't know anything about moving and all that stuff, so I did everything you possibly could wrong. So I laid in bed during the week, and then I would go and play rugby on the weekends. So it's like the worst combination of things, an extreme contact sport and no motion. So it got worse because I wasn't doing anything, and then even worse because I was playing rugby on the weekends.
Because we were getting beat up. Jim, Aaron, and I used to play rugby together back in college, and we used to just we would get beat up.
Yes. So the way I actually got it better, well, first of all, the rugby season ended, but I just started walking. I started going to the gym and just doing like lighter workouts instead of my normal whatever it was. I just sort of toned it back and started light, and just started building from there. And really, what made me better is I just started moving again. I started going back to my normal routine. I wasn't letting myself be in bed for days and days and days.
Yeah.
And
I have people sometimes comment about, well, you shouldn't be lifting that heavy. It's just ego lifting and everything. And it's like, no, I don't even pay any attention to them. But if for some reason I miss 1 week of workout, by the time I get back, my back's starting to hurt.
Yeah.
Because I didn't work out. So.
Well, yeah, like one big thing we always say is motion is lotion. So
exactly.
If you're not moving, things get stiff. Those little
movement
tend to pop
medicine.
Up. Mm-hmm.
Now, the most important thing is you keep everything moving too. It's like movement's medicine, movement's lotion. If you're in pain, the worst thing to do is to not move. The best thing to do is to move.
Right. Well, like I said, my shoulder's really bad, but I'm doing like the Smith machine. I'm starting out with just the bar and everything. But I'm going to work my way up, and I'm going to try to build the muscle up around the shoulder again, and try to get more motion in it. But I'll let you know in 6 months how it works.
Sounds good.
How it works out for you.
There we go. We're going to write down on the calendar then. We're going to follow up in 6 months.
There you go.
I want to know, that puts us in the end of September. Oh my God, the year's going to fly. It's already March.
If you don't mind me asking, what happened to the shoulder?
Well, 2 things. Banging on the anvil all day.
Makes sense.
And then I was at a bench press competition, and my shoulder wasn't hurting me that much then, but my elbows were hurting me. And I'd already done, I don't know, 3 something. And I like I said, my elbows were hurting, but I went for I think 315 or something. I don't know what it was because it would be a new PR for me in that weight class. And it was going up nice and easy, and all of a sudden it sounded like somebody was tearing a t-shirt in half. And the weight just stopped, and the spotters grabbed it. And so on the way home, this is when I was still when I was living up in New Jersey, I had to go right by the hospital. And I was just going to say to heck with it. I'll just, um, wait and see what happens. But the reason I stopped at the hospital is because I wanted to make sure my elbow was going to be okay, so I could still bench press. So anyway, long story short, I tore the tricep tendon completely off of my left elbow. So I had to have it surgically reattached. And then for a month, it was in a cast, and then he put it in a brace. And so I couldn't move it for a long time. So for 8 or 10 months, I couldn't work out. Now, even with my arm in the cast and everything, I was still shoeing horses. And so I was coming there and banging on the anvil, but I wasn't going home and strengthening everything by working out. And I think that's when my shoulder got really bad, was when I couldn't work out to kind of repair the damage I'd done during the day. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I believe.
It makes sense. So left elbow is where the tricep tear was.
Right.
Then right shoulder is the one with a lot of issues now.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
That's definitely something.
And then I didn't even realize, because, after my shoulder got really bad, whenever I would bench, my right arm would always be going up ahead of my left. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then after I really blew it out, I realized the reason it was going up that way is because somehow I was shifting the weight. So my left arm was doing all the work. And that's why the right arm was going up faster.
Yeah,
so at least that's my theory.
Almost moving the whole body in a way so that.
Yeah, somehow I was doing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you still didn't let it stop you. We still showed up to work. We were still shoeing the horses. We still keeping it moving. I love it, Jim.
Yep. Yep. But then it got so bad, I had to stop shoeing horses right around the time I turned 50. And I went into real estate, but I still kept working out.
Yeah, and I think your idea of going Smith machine, starting light, and just building from there, that's what you got to do. If the goal is to bench, the Smith machine's a good option that gives a little bit more stability. Makes sense.
Well, yeah, because if I take just a regular bar, off the bench, my left shoulder can't stabilize it.
Yeah.
Or I mean, my right shoulder.
No,
so I figure I'm going to use the Smith machine, try to build up the muscle around it. I mean, I don't have any intentions of competing in the bench press anymore. I'm just going to stick with the deadlift only. Mm-hmm. But I want to get this shoulder so that it's more functional than it is now.
Now, Jim, when do you have a set a date for the next competition, or what's that looking like?
June 7th.
June 7th. All right.
June
Where's that, down in Florida?
Yep, it's going to be at Cocoa Beach, and it's actually the Larry B. Pan Am National Meet, so it's named after my friend Larry.
That's very cool.
Yep.
So what is the contest prep for you like?
Nothing. I just keep going, and if my training goes the way it should, I should be able to bench press. Since I've been in heart failure, it'll be the first time I bench press 400 pounds.
All right. Well, that would not be too bad.
Wait, first time you deadlift? Yeah, deadlift.
Yeah, deadlift, not bench. Well, it'll be the first time I deadlift over 400 pounds since going into heart failure. Now, right before I went into heart failure, I did 460 at a meet.
Yeah, so you're getting there, bit by bit.
Yeah, and it's been. I'll tell you, there was a time there where I couldn't even get up to 300 again, because I just, with the heart failure, I just didn't have the energy. So, but like I said, I've been experimenting and taking my time, and
learning everything with that too. And we're gonna keep an eye out on that. I'm gonna mark that in the calendar too. I'm gonna take a look at the the result board when that comes up for you on June 7th. So I'm excited for you, Jim. That's going to be awesome.
Well, there you go. Yep. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Is it all right if we dive a little deeper into the heart failure, sort of the story with that?
No, sure.
So I guess what happened? Did you end up having to have
Well,
surgery or anything?
I like I said, I got up to where I deadlifted 480, and then my workouts were going really good, and then I could feel something had changed, but I wasn't sure what, and I think that's when I went into AFib. But it took a while before I got diagnosed with AFib. I think I got, let me see, that was right around the end of 2022. My doctor, I was just doing a regular physical, and he said, he wanted to know if he could do an EKG, and he found out I was in AFib. And so then I started going to a cardiologist, and I was still working out. It affected a little bit, but not much. Like I said, my weight's dropped just a little bit. But I remember one Monday I was getting ready to go drive, and I just didn't feel right. And they had me on blood thinners and all that stuff. And this was, let me see, I did the meet. It was another one. It was in June. It was the Larry B meet again, and so this was in April. The meet was in June. In July, my workouts were really getting bad. I mean, I was struggling with weights that were warm up weights. And anyway, towards the end of the month, I'm getting ready to drive, and it's a Monday, and I get up, I take my shower and all this stuff, and I get dressed, and then I just, something didn't feel right. So I told my wife, I said, you know what? I said, I think I ought to go to the hospital, just make sure I'm not having a minor stroke or minor heart attack. So I go there, and immediately they take me in the back, and 4 days, they put me in, and 4 days later they come in and tell me I'm in heart failure. So I couldn't work out for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I had to start working out again. But I mean, I couldn't even get half. I mean, I was going to use really light weights, and I couldn't even get halfway through the workout that I had planned, because halfway through it, I'm out of gas. But I was smart about it. If I knew I was done, I'd stop. And then I waited till the next week, and I just kind of did it all along. And my doctor told me not to lift more than 10 pounds, but I didn't pay any attention to that. But anyway, he told me that he could get me out of AFib, but he said it would probably take about 6 months for my heart to get strong enough for him to. I say he electrocuted me. They zapped me, or I don't know what they call it, but they put a plate here and a plate on your back, and they basically shock you.
Yep.
And anyway, 2 months after I went into heart failure, he was able to do that. So they got me out of AFib, but I still got. From what I've been told, you never get out of heart failure. But it is starting to get a little better, and like I said, I'm getting stronger. My strength is coming back. But I'm smart about it.
Yeah. So not only like your muscles are getting stronger, but your heart, even though like you are in
Right.
heart failure, can still get stronger, can still improve.
Right.
Like those,
Right.
all those tests, the whole works that they go through do improve when you exercise and when you do stuff.
Right.
And to our point we were talking about before, if you don't do anything, those numbers all start to get worse too. It really is just important to get back into it.
And I don't know if I'm right or not, but I honestly believe that one of the reasons that maybe I'm still here is because I had been working out so hard before I went into heart failure that it wasn't bad enough to kill me. Yeah. Although they say the normal percentage is 75%. I was pumping out about 20% every heartbeat.
Yeah. So I think you're talking about the ejection fraction was super
right.
low.
Yeah. I had no idea, because when I went into heart failure, I started looking it up, and they kept saying 75%. I'm like, what are they talking about? So then my son David, who was a fireman paramedic, he's the one that explained it to me. And then I'm like, oh, okay.
So have you gotten that checked recently?
Well, actually, I got it checked almost a year ago, and it was up in the 55 to 60 range. And actually, this coming May, I got to go get the echo chamber done May 1st, and then May 11th. Then I'll go to the cardiologist, and he'll tell me the results of the echo chamber. So, yeah, so they're
back on
testing
the
me once a year.
Yeah, but I mean, even going from 20% to 55, hey, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good improvement.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You had a whole nother year to train and improve, and like you see your numbers improve too. So hopefully it's the same case with something like that.
Right.
And
yeah, like your weight numbers are going up, so we can imagine that the heart numbers should be going up too. But go ahead.
Well, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, as important as those numbers are, it's also just important how you feel. You know, like let's say you had the same number as you did last year, but you're stronger, you feel better, you're not as tired.
Well, I am stronger. Yeah, I have gotten stronger the last year.
Yeah, so like that stuff is almost as important as the number. You know, like if you had the same number as last year, that's still a lot better. You're in a lot better place now than you were before.
Right.
That's exciting. Now, there was something I was doing a little research online after I found you on Instagram. I got very curious. I was just like, who is Jim? Like, it seemed like you were in competitive. I could tell by your Instagram, so I wanted to learn more about you. And it looked like somebody else did, like, you know, some questions. And you were talking about a 40-year split from when you first started working out to when you started doing the competitive stuff again. What happened during that 40-year split? What made you step out of it and then step back into it?
Well, like I said, I was doing bench press competitions, and then my shoulders started getting really bad, and after a while, I think it was in the 90s, I just decided to not compete anymore. I was still working out, but I just didn't compete. And then, like I said, I came down here. And then I started doing the deadlifting, and when it got up around 400 pounds, I'm thinking, yeah, geez, I could compete. So
that's what circled us back in. Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because every time I look in the magazines for the results, because I lift in the WNPF, the World Natural Powerlifting Federation. There's hundreds of powerlifting federations out there. I like these guys because I trust them. They're adamant about their lifters being drug-free. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the other federations say their lifters are drug-free, but me and Larry both knew that was nonsense. Because Larry would compete. Larry would compete in some of these other federations, and but I since I've been deadlifting and moved down here, I just strictly the WNPF.
Yeah, I mean
that's like the bodybuilding when they're just like, oh yeah, no, don't worry, they're drug free in that moment.
Yeah.
But a month ago they were loaded up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like we're all on Instagram. Like we see how some people either look or just some of the weights that people move. It's just, there's a little extra juice along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sad because people think like, oh, like they look bigger, they look good, but it's so unhealthy for you to do that. It's like there's no health benefit other than like just the look benefit to it. But I don't know, people still do it.
I have mixed feelings because I really don't know. I've never done steroids, so I really can't say firsthand. But I think, in my opinion, one of the problems with steroid use is people abuse it. I tend to believe that if it's done properly, you could probably get good benefits from it. But I don't know. Everybody said it's bad on the heart and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think that when you look at it from a competition point of view, there's a reason like people do it. Like you're probably going to do better in your competition if you're training properly. But then you have the other hand where some people who maybe just started lifting, they're like, oh, I want to have an extra boost and be able to get super strong, super fast. And then they also try like steroids or something like that, which I think is where we probably think it's maybe a little more hurtful, where it's just you're really just doing it and you haven't even gotten into the point like, Jim, you've been training for years, so you're able to build up in strength and everything. Where people don't even get to that point to build a good base.
Yeah, they don't. They're in such a hurry. They don't want to build a good foundation first naturally.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the human physique, like just naturally, the peak performance is still very good. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
you can look and
Yeah.
feel very good and be completely natural.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
But
know,
like you said, you can tell. You can pretty much tell when well, anybody that is knowledgeable about it can tell when somebody's juicing and when they're not.
Yeah, if you're involved in the fitness industry, you can take a look and be like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
genetics can only take you so far, even if
Right.
you got great ones.
no, you don't have
I
to.
mean, I've been accused of it. Well, not really accused of it, but when I was working out in the gym, um, I remember one of my friends in there. He was telling the guy about me, and the guy goes, "Oh, is he using steroids?" And Anthony goes, "Nope, nope, not at all."
That's how you
Which
know
makes it like,
like you're
yeah, go
doing
ahead, Aaron.
something right if people are accusing you of
Oh,
steroids.
I took it as a compliment.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna say. It's just like next thing, like it
Exactly.
feels
Yeah.
even better when you get to say
Right.
like, nope, this is all natural. I did it all on my own. People
Yeah.
are like, what?
Exactly. Yeah.
so you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but sort of just a fun thing. Is there anybody who you notice, like any celebrities that they say, "Oh, I'm not natural," or "I am natural," when they seem like they probably are not?
Celebrity? What do you mean? Like
So the biggest example I could think of someone who always says he's natural, but to me doesn't seem like it, is Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
that's just who I
That's
was
so
thinking of.
funny.
Yeah.
I just Googled it too. I'm like, does The Rock
Yeah.
claim to be natural?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the one I always think of. For some reason, this conversation made me
But
think of that.
it's funny though. Remember how steroids, you know, back 20 years ago or so, between football, basketball, baseball, everybody was being accused of using steroids and everybody was testing positive. And now you don't see that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why?
Why is that?
I looked it up. I Googled it sometime in the last year because I was wondering why aren't people being tested positive? The NFL decided that whatever the range is for normal um, T levels, whatever the highest level is, the NFL decided that because their athletes are young athletes in top shape, that they raised their top level 6% or 6 times. So if the top
Wow.
number was 1,000, now it's 6,000
That's
for the
actually
NFL
crazy.
before they'll accuse you of using drugs. Now, if the NFL did it, darn right, Major League Baseball did it, everybody did it.
As
Yeah.
soon
And
as one goes, it's dominoes. They all start doing
yeah,
the same thing.
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they're all juicing, but
maybe a little
But we
bit.
we could be honest though. Like we've been watching. I'm a big NFL fan. We've seen some pretty crazy plays over the last couple of years. So I wouldn't doubt it.
oh
Like
yeah,
there's some big
yeah.
guys in that league now, man.
But like I said, if they're not really abusing it, I don't care. Just own up to it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
just
Be
admit, yeah,
truthful.
yeah, I'm getting a little help.
Mm-hmm.
I
And you
take
know what? You're
I take
seeing more and
protein
more of it.
powder and creatine. That's
Yeah.
that's 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 my stuff.
And it does the job.
Yep.
It is funny that you mentioned that, Jim, because there are still people, like, although it's not nearly as much, that get caught with steroids, that do every once in a while. Well, you hear about some performance enhancing thing, and with that stat where it's 6 times what it used to be, they must have a lot of stuff going through their system if they are actually like still
Oh
getting
yeah.
caught with things.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember in the last 10 years or more. I can't remember anybody
I
being.
think I can't even think of a name off the top of my head, but I know there's been like one or two that I've heard. I know a big one for actually the UFC is John Jones that got caught a few times with certain things.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, he did.
yeah, there's a lot of fighters that say, "Oh, everybody does it." It's just some people get caught for some reason, or
Yep.
the when you actually take it matters too. But
Well, I've heard of like the bodybuilders, like they have like cycle. I mean, we've all heard of like the cycling for it, but they have like timing where like they know like, all right, the meet is on like this day. Like I have to cycle off of everything and like test myself and make sure I'm clear by like this day. And they have it like down to like a science and a T. I think a lot of like the Mr. Olympias do that too.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I mean, even Schwarzenegger a couple of years ago called him out on it because I mean these guys, I mean the bodybuilders of the last 5-10 years, they're freaks. I mean they are just. I mean it's ridiculous. Even Schwarzenegger. I mean they all look like they're 6 months pregnant.
Yeah.
It's all muscle,
Yeah.
but they still look like. And Schwarzenegger called them out at the Arnold, 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was. He called him out on it and said, you guys got, you don't have no symmetry anymore. It's,
Yeah, I actually remember the interview you're talking about where he is basically saying that like when he was competing, they were, I don't know if beautiful was the word he used, but it was like a beautiful display of like the perfect, I guess, human body.
Well, yeah, they looked good back then.
Yeah, and now it's like, oh, that guy is like just almost too big.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I've heard a bunch of stories where bodybuilders like can't even like wipe their butt because there's
Well, that's,
so
yeah,
much,
I can believe that.
yeah, so much bulk and muscle.
Yeah.
Literally stops you from being able to move. It just gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Aside from powerlifting, have you ever gotten into any other strength sports?
Strength sports? No, not really. I ran track in high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some track, some football. I guess that, like you said, that's sort of how it all started with football.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's go into just it's a big question. It's kind of been like the theme that we've been following here outside of like the powerlifting stuff. It's the inspirational part of it. What's your advice? You're going through like the heart failure. We've had a lot of things happen. What's your advice for people who might be going through tough times? They get like hit with some news that might bother them. What's your advice to them, Jim?
Well, you just got to, like I said, you got to keep going. You got to make the right choices. Like, I don't know if you guys know, are you aware that I lost both of my sons?
Mm-hmm.
So
Saw that too.
So that's been really tough, and that's when I really started getting into, because with the heart failure it was still physical, but with losing both of my boys, then it was mental health. So I'm trying to be motivational and inspirational, not just with physical health, but with mental health also. And it's just not letting the crap that life throws at you beat you down. And it's tough, but you got to do it.
Do you find there's any outlets for you just mental health wise that help you just keep on going?
I say all the time, my lifting is my therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, when after David committed suicide, I started looking that up, and there's a thing called 988. I have it on my site once in a while. But they've been around for about 20 years, but nobody really knows about it. But they're starting to get more popular. But I had actually magnetic signs made up, and I have them on both sides of my car, and I just leave them on there, and it says 988, and it's a suicide slash crisis hotline. And I tell people it's a heck of a lot easier to remember than the 800 number that they give out all the time.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to remember that. True. But 988, you can remember. 911, emergency. 988, it's an emergency, but it's a mental health emergency, so you need to call.
Yeah, and it's awesome that it's picking up more awareness. And my best friend in high school, Jim, he also he committed suicide, and at that time 988 wasn't really known at all either. So I'm also happy to see and hear that the awareness is being picked up more, that people are trying to spread awareness about it, that we're taking mental health to the forefront, to realize that there's a lot of things that happen in our mind that we used to all brush off, and now we're realizing like, hey, no, this we need to talk about this.
Yeah, you gotta be aware of it, but and then you've got to be in a good enough place where you can make better choices. Like David committing suicide, he did not make the right choice. He thought he was, and when you get to the point where he was at, I don't know if anybody could have helped him. I mean, he was the guys in the fire department were worried about him. They had him going to a counselor. He was going to another counselor, and he still did it. And then Chris, he dealt with drug addiction for 10, 12 years. And it was just a lot of poor choices on their part and just not wanting to, just reach out for the help that they really needed.
Yeah, and that's a big, both are very big in mental health games. There, it's hard to deal with that too, of course, and now spreading and bringing awareness to like the other tools and resources out there are very very important because it's gonna help somebody.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Jim, I'm very sorry for you and your wife, and I can't even imagine what that was like to go through, for your
Well,
like
actually,
you
my
guys.
wife right now is not the mother of my kids.
Mm.
So, we got married 20 years ago, but I had um, David and Jamie. My two older kids was from my first marriage, and then Chris was from an old girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So the woman I'm married to now is not the mother of my kids, but still, she's been around them for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Being
Yeah.
around for
So,
twenty
Big
years.
part of their lives and your lives.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think nowadays, like, mental health is even more important than ever. Where you hear crazy stories all the time in the news about things go bad like that. So
Yeah.
spreading awareness of things like 988, something that definitely needs to happen more as much as we can.
Yeah, and I know they're really reaching out to like first responders
Mm-hmm.
because first responders, their suicide rate is about twice the national average.
Yeah.
I mean, David was really good at his job. He helped a lot of people, but he also saw a lot of terrible stuff.
Yep. I know one of the biggest examples of that I know is actually my brother-in-law, who is a PA, and he worked with pulmonology, so lungs. So during COVID, it was like one of the, I guess, craziest things. The hospitals filled with people, all these like terrible things happening. It was a very tough time. Like that's not really something you could mentally prepare for, or like, and that's a hard thing to come out of too. Like I know my wife will say like, yeah, he's a different guy now than he was
Yeah,
before all that stuff happened.
yeah, it's just and that's what David was doing good, and but then he had a couple of um tough calls the last month, and I guess it just kind of set him off again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, and it's one of those tough situations where if you don't go and get the help there, sometimes there's times where you feel like you have it under control, but I always, I'm an advocate for therapy and everything too, because I'm someone who's spent a lot of time in therapy. So it's always good where even if you feel like you've got things under control to get out there and talk to somebody, use those
Yep,
resources. They're there for the reason.
yep. But like I said too, when um, when people make up their mind to do that and they get to that point, I don't know if there's anything anybody can do to help them because I mean, David was um, he was a gun enthusiast. He had a lot of guns. Um, and the guys at the firehouse were so worried about him the week before he committed suicide, they came and took all of his guns, but he still found a way to do it.
Yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
like you get like tunnel vision, and that's what you're gonna
Yep.
do, and there's nothing stopping you from it.
Yeah. And and there's no way David would have done that to his wife and their four daughters if he was in his right mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the answer is when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Well, I think that's sort of the gray area of, I guess, life, where sometimes there's not like a black and white what you could do. It's just it's not really a good answer, honestly. It's just tough.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
as humans, we're all still kind of figuring that one out too as well. But we're making progress with it, and that's the biggest thing. Is we're not stopping. We're pushing forward with figuring out what we can do, and I think that's big. And 988 is a big start. Bringing more and more awareness to those just resources that are out and available.
Yeah, and the people that I've had in the car that have called them, they say they're absolutely fabulous.
Mm-hmm. And Jim, honestly, this is why like we need people like you around that like spread some inspiration and give a positive message about like things like that can happen, but you can keep on going. You can keep getting stronger. you can use like lifting exercise as an outlet to actually help get through some of these things too. Like there are a lot of studies that say exercise will actually help with mental health as well. It's one of the best things you could do.
Yeah, and like I said, I just want to spread the word, spread my story, spread the word, and just give people hope.
And Jim, as somebody who saw what you're doing on Instagram, I can tell you you're doing just that. And Larry he's looking down, happy on all of the things that you're doing and the message that you're sending with everything. So you're, like I said earlier in the episode, you're doing it, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I think that's probably a good time to wrap up for the day. Jim, did you have anything else you wanted to shout out?
No, I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on the podcast. It was great having you on.
Well, thanks for having me.
And have a nice night, everybody.